What do you do when the one person you're supposed to trust treats you like nothing more than a nuisance? My name is Willow, and I'm here to share a story about how my life changed because of my awful stepmother, Meredith. From the moment she stepped into our lives, things were never the same. She made it clear she wasn't interested in being a mother, and every day after that felt like a battle to keep my place in the family. Little did she know, I had my own plan. Stay tuned to hear how I turned the tables and what happened when I finally took control. Don't forget to subscribe and follow for more stories of strength and standing up for yourself. When my dad, Harrison, first introduced me to Meredith, she made it clear from the start that she didn't want to be a mother to me. She said, "Don't think I'm going to be your mom. You're just my husband's daughter, nothing more. You're a teenager, so don't expect me to do anything for you." I tried to remain calm and replied, "That's fine, Meredith. I can take care of myself. I just want my dad to be happy. I won't get in the way." Her response was cruel. "You're already in the way, you little witch. Don't act smart with me. Once you turn 17, I'll make sure you're out of our lives so I can have Harrison all to myself." The conversation quickly turned ugly. Meredith said some truly awful things about me and my late mother. My dad, Harrison, had been a widower for years after my mother passed away when I was just 7 years old. I miss her every day, and it took my dad a long time before he even considered dating again. That's why, despite her harsh words, I never told him what Meredith said or did. I didn't want to hurt him. Looking back, I realize it was a huge mistake to stay quiet. Meredith turned into a nightmare after marrying my dad. Even he was shocked by how she treated me. Meredith targeted me constantly, trying everything she could to get me out of the house. She made it clear that she hated kids and never wanted me around. She had never mentioned any of this before they started dating. When my dad refused to abandon me, she went to extreme lengths to make my life unbearable. She ruined her own cooking and blamed me for it. "Look at what your daughter did, Harrison. She ruined my dinner because I refused to cook for her. One day, she's going to poison me." See, Dad would then ask me, "Willow, what do you have to say about this?" "Dad, I swear I had nothing to do with it. I was in my room eating takeout. I wasn't even home when you came back," I tried to explain. Meredith would interrupt. "Oh my God, she's lying, Harrison. You need to get rid of her before she kills me." This was just one example of the chaos Meredith had caused for the past 5 years. It all stemmed from too much salt in her food, which she had added herself just to blame me. It was absurd, but my dad believed me because I had years of proof that Meredith was manipulative and deceitful. She did much worse, cutting off my phone line, locking me out of the house for hours, taking my car keys on an important test day, and even throwing away a project I had worked on for an entire week. Dad tried his best to make Meredith understand that her actions weren't okay, but she never listened. She would act sweet for a few days, only to turn around and do something awful again. By the time Meredith had been living with us for a year, I had started working and paying for my own expenses. I wanted to avoid her interference in my life as much as possible. Dad was disappointed, but I assured him it was good for me to have my own money. I didn't want him to feel guilty about my independence. Meredith, who was a stay-at-home wife, considered my dad's money as her own and wasn't willing to spend any on me, not even for basic needs. I tried to stay out of her way, hoping she'd leave me alone, but she never got the hint. She was relentless, determined to get rid of me from the house, but she had no idea what was coming. The big drama happened a few weeks after my 17th birthday. Since then, Meredith had been in a great mood, often singing happily around the house. I knew why she was so cheerful. She thought she could finally get rid of me. Little did she know, I had overheard her talking to her friend on the phone about how she planned to kick me out. I was aware of her plan, but she had no idea what was coming for her. One day, I came home from work and saw my stuff packed in my room. Instead of being upset, I was amused. I said, "Hey, Meredith, why is my stuff packed and waiting in my room? Are we going on vacation?" "Don't act so smart, Willow." "I hope you remember my words," she snapped back. "I told you that once you turned 17, I would make you leave." "Well, now it's time for you to go. I've decided to be nice and pack your things to make it easier for you." "You want to kick me out of my house?" Oh no, Willow. This is my house and I don't need to keep you here anymore. I'll deal with Harrison later, but you were definitely leaving. Meredith had a smug look on her face. She was happy with herself. She was already thinking about what to do with my room, but I said, "Not so fast, Meredith. Karma is coming for you." I calmly took some papers from my bag and gave them to her. She looked confused, so I smirked and said, "I think you should look at these papers first, Meredith. I've been meaning to give them to you for a while. It's good you mentioned eviction today. It reminded me of these documents." "What are these papers? Why do I need to read them?" she asked. "Why don't you take a look and find out?" I replied. Meredith sat down and started to read the papers I had given her. At first, she looked confused. Then her face changed to shock and disbelief. She looked at me, then back at the papers. Her expression turned angry. "Is this an eviction notice in my name? What the hell, Willow? What does this mean?" she asked. "It means I want you out of my house in a month, you know, the usual thing an eviction notice means," I said. "You can't serve me eviction papers. You can't do that. This is my house, and I'm the only one who can kick people out," she yelled. No, Meredith, this is my house and always has been. My dad was just a caretaker who held it for me until I turned 17. Now that I'm 17, the house is mine. I recently finished the paperwork," I explained. No, that's impossible. Harrison can't just give you this house. This is our marital property, and he can't give it to you without asking me." She protested. "How is this a marital property, Meredith? Dad had this house long before you were around. I guess he didn't tell you that it belonged to my maternal grandparents. They left it to me and had Dad take care of it until I was old enough," I said. "I turned 17 just a few weeks ago." No, you must be lying to me. This can't be true. You're trying to scam me and kick me out of the house. Wait till your father hears about this. He will kick you out instead," Meredith yelled. She made the mistake of involving my father, forgetting that she never asked him if she could kick me out. Even though the house technically belonged to him, she should have at least consulted him before making any decisions about me. She knew he would say no, so she tried to go behind his back, but in her haste, she forgot this important detail and ended up dragging Dad into it. I wasn't complaining it worked out better for me this way. Dad came downstairs, responding to the commotion, and asked, "Whoa, calm down, Meredith. Why are you yelling like that? What's going on?" "Why wouldn't I be yelling? Your daughter is making wild accusations again. She says this house is hers and now she's kicking me out," Meredith shouted. Dad turned to me, asking, "Willow, what's going on? I need to know the truth." I knew my dad would ask for my side. He's a fair father who always listens to both sides, even when Meredith tries to dominate the conversation. He would never just take her side without hearing me out first, which was something Meredith resented. She always expected him to be on her side, regardless of what was right. They'd fought about this before, but Dad insisted on fairness, which is why he was asking for my side now. I explained, "Meredith called me down and said she was kicking me out. She told me I couldn't stay here anymore. I overheard her talking about it on the phone, so I decided to turn the tables. I gave her an eviction notice." Dad's face turned serious as he turned to Meredith. "What the hell, Meredith? Who gave you permission to try and kick my daughter out? We never talked about this. Why am I just hearing about it now?" Meredith's face shifted from shock to panic, realizing she had made a mistake. She'd underestimated me and was now trying to cover her tracks. In classic Meredith fashion, she became defensive, snapping, "Your daughter's an adult now, Harrison. She turned 17 and we've been letting her stay here without rent for a month. Most parents kick their kids out when they turn 17. Willow needs to learn responsibility and start living on her own." "That's for me to decide, Meredith. You're not her parent. You've never been involved in any of the decisions regarding Willow's life. How did you think it was okay to decide when she should leave? That's not your place." "Harrison, I've put up with Willow's teenage years, but now that she's an adult, she has to go. I won't let her stay in my house anymore." "Who said this is your house? Where is the deed that shows this house is in your name?" Meredith stammered. "Well, it's your house, so I should have equal rights to it as your wife. This is my house too, and I won't allow Willow to stay here anymore. She needs to leave." "This is not your house, Meredith. Even if it were, you have no right to it. This house belongs to Willow. It's in her name." Meredith went white as a sheet. She never expected Dad to back me up. She always operated under the assumption that everything was hers, simply because she said so. Hearing Dad's stance was a complete shock to her. She started crying, her voice cracking. "Why would you say that, Harrison?" "Because it's the truth. The house belongs to Willow." "Why is that so hard to understand?" "You gave Willow the house without talking to me? How could you do that, Harrison? I'm your wife, and you should have discussed this with me first. This isn't right. You had no problem going behind my back and trying to kick my daughter out. Why can't I do the same, Meredith? Talk about double standards. There was nothing to discuss. This house was always meant for Willow. I was just holding on to it until she turned 17. The house was transferred to her name recently." Meredith finally understood that we weren't lying. Dad even offered to show her the paperwork if she needed proof. She was too stunned to argue coherently. All she could say was, "You deceived me, Harrison. I thought this house was yours. You lied to me. This isn't fair." "I never lied to you, Meredith. You never asked whose house this was. When we got married, we signed a prenup that said our personal assets stay personal." "Oh my God, this can't be true. You should have told me, Harrison. Now Willow is throwing us out. Look at how ungrateful your daughter is, Harrison." "I'm not throwing you out, Meredith. That's just for you. You won't get to live in my house anymore. I might have let you stay, but after you tried to kick me out, I changed my mind. You're the one who has to leave. If you kick me out, your dad will follow too. We're a couple. He won't leave his wife." My father laughed out loud. He had been thinking about leaving Meredith for a while, but he wasn't sure. Today made the decision easy for him. He said, "Actually, no, Meredith. I'm not following you. I will stay here and take care of my daughter. I've been thinking about divorce for a while, and what you did today sealed the deal. I'll be filing tomorrow. Be ready for it." "Wait, are you going to divorce me? You want to leave me for your daughter? You can't do that." "Yes, I can, Meredith." "Did you think I'd forgive you for tormenting my daughter for 4 years? Absolutely not. I thought you might change, but I see now you'll always be toxic. I don't want someone like that in my or my daughter's life." Meredith stepped back as if she had been hurt. She never expected a divorce so soon. My dad is usually a quiet man who doesn't do anything drastic. This was very unlike him. He was mad, and you could see it on his face. He didn't shout, but his tone showed how angry he was. This made Meredith even more anxious. She started arguing with my dad, and I decided to leave them and go to my room. Dad and Meredith fought for an hour, with Meredith shouting and crying while my father calmly explained his reasons. After the argument, Dad came to my room. He seemed a bit sad and wouldn't look me in the eye. He sat down and said, "Willow, I know I need to apologize to you. I'm sorry, dear. I should have done a better job of protecting you from Meredith. I thought being fair and avoiding fights would make things better. I was wrong and made things worse for you." "You don't have to apologize, Dad. I know you loved Meredith, and she wasn't like this when you married her. People change, and it can take time to understand these changes." "Wow, you've really grown up. I wish I had handled things differently. I brought a mad woman into our lives." "Well, what's done is done. I forgive you, Dad. You tried your best, and I'm not upset." "Do you really want to divorce Meredith?" "I won't be mad if you don't. I would understand." "Girl, I'm not living with that crazy woman anymore. I'm done. Her true colors shocked me too much to act sooner. I don't want her in my life anymore. I had a feeling something was wrong with Meredith, which is why I made the prenup. I was worried she'd mess up your future and cause money problems, so I thought this was the best way. See, you did think about me too. You deserve to be happy, Dad. That's all I want. If Meredith doesn't mean anything to you anymore, it's best to separate." I spent a lot of time assuring my dad that he was not a bad parent. He did a lot for me, and I needed to make him believe that too. I won't lie, I was super happy that my dad was finally getting rid of that crazy woman, Meredith. She wasn't the right person for him and shouldn't stay married to him after everything she did over the years. The talk with my dad went well, and he went to the guest room to sleep that night. I finally felt peaceful knowing that Meredith would soon be out of our lives for good. It felt great to teach her a lesson. I hoped she would remember this for the rest of her life. The real surprise came the next morning when I found Meredith acting way too nice and caring towards me. She was in the kitchen making me breakfast and acting like I was the most important person to her. Even Dad was giving her a strange look and looked at me with confusion. When breakfast was over, I said, "Thanks for breakfast, Meredith, but you don't have to do this anymore. I can make my own food, as I have for the last 7 years. No need to change things all of a sudden." "What nonsense, Willow! I'm happy to do this for you. Eating together can bring us closer as a family," she replied. "What's the point? We won't be a family much longer. You should have done this years ago. It's too late now." "Oh, come on, Harrison. Don't be so hard on me. I'm trying. I can make this work. I'll start being a better parent to Willow. We'll be the best mother-daughter duo ever, right, Willow?" I could see right through Meredith's scheme. She had been cornered and was spending the entire night plotting her next move. But I knew better than to trust her. Looking at Dad, it was clear he wasn't buying it. Either he seemed more amused than concerned. Meredith was anxiously waiting for my response, so I decided to make my stance clear. "I don't think so, Meredith. First of all, I'm 17. I'm 17 and don't need a new parent. I pay my own bills and will be heading off to college soon. Secondly, you are not and will never be my mother. That word just doesn't suit you." Her expression faltered for a moment, but she quickly gathered herself. "Willow, I'm sorry for being so harsh with you before. You need to give people a chance. We could have a happy family if you just give me a chance. This would also help strengthen my marriage with your dad." Dad, without missing a beat, replied, "Meredith, you've got a few months left in this marriage, and I don't know what you think you're trying to strengthen. If it's an attempt to stay in this house, it's not going to work. You're being kicked out, and I'm divorcing you anyway. The damage is done. There's no point in pretending to be all innocent and sorry now. I know you better than that." Meredith realized her new approach wasn't working, and it was clear she had run out of options. She couldn't threaten to ruin Dad financially due to the prenup she signed when they married. She had no leverage left. All she had left was to beg and cry, hoping to win some sympathy. She sobbed uncontrollably, pleading with me not to kick her out. She begged me to talk to Dad and ask him to reconsider his decision. Then she turned to Dad, begging for his forgiveness, asking him to reconsider the divorce. The entire day turned into an agonizing ordeal. Meredith clung to us, begging and pleading for mercy. Since both Dad and I were off work that day, we had no choice but to endure her desperate attempts to change our minds. She trailed behind us, tears streaming down her face, her voice shaking with desperation. Dad eventually had to step out to contact his lawyer and start the divorce proceedings. But even when he left, Meredith's pleas didn't stop. She tried to get me to intervene on her behalf, but I remained firm. When Dad returned, looking visibly tired from dealing with the drama, he informed Meredith that he had already filed for divorce. Her face drained of color when she heard this, realizing that her attempts to sway us were futile. The next few days were a repetitive cycle of Meredith's emotional breakdowns. She fluctuated between crying and putting on a cheerful front, hoping to win us over with kindness, but it was too late for that. Within a week, Meredith received the divorce papers. Dad's lawyer had them delivered to her, and her reaction was a mix of shock and resignation. The weight of the reality hit her hard, and she stopped her begging and crying. She finally realized her efforts had been in vain. The cold truth of her situation began to settle in. Dad and I sat her down and explained that she would need to find a job if she wanted to have a place to stay and a lawyer for her divorce. Meredith, still holding on to the hope that somehow she could fix things, promised she would find a way to support herself. She still believed she could change our minds if she just tried hard enough. She kept saying that she would prove herself and make things right, but we both knew it was too late. As the days passed, Meredith's presence in the house became more and more unbearable. She would try to engage in conversations, acting as if nothing had happened, but it was clear that neither Dad nor I wanted to have anything to do with her anymore. The tension in the house was palpable, and every interaction with her felt forced and uncomfortable. Finally, the month came to an end, and Meredith was still holding on to the hope that we would let her stay. She kept her belongings packed, waiting for a last-minute change of heart from us, but when the time came, there was no reprieve. We had been clear about our intentions from the start, and now it was time to follow through. Meredith was given a firm deadline to leave the house. Dad and I stood by watching as she gathered her things. She tried one last time to plead with us, her eyes filled with tears and desperation, but we remained steadfast. Meredith's belongings were taken out and she was escorted out of the house. She looked back at us one last time, hoping for a sign of mercy, but there was none. As the door closed behind her, a wave of relief washed over me. The house felt lighter, freer, without the constant tension and negativity that Meredith brought. Dad and I shared a moment of quiet understanding, knowing that this was the right decision. We had endured enough, and now it was time to move forward, leaving Meredith and her manipulations behind. She put up a scene when we asked her to leave, but after Dad threatened her with legal action, she finally walked out, tears streaming down her face. I heard she moved in with some friends, as her own family had made it clear they didn't want her around anymore. When she left, all the negativity went with her, and the house began to feel like a home again. It's been over 3 years since that happened. I'm now in college, conveniently close to home. Dad successfully divorced Meredith, and although he claims he's not interested in settling down, he's enjoying some companionship from time to time. Life at home has been peaceful ever since Meredith left, and Dad and I have grown much closer. We often laugh about the chaos that once filled our lives, reflecting on how much better things are now. As for Meredith, the last I heard, she was living in a small flat with a few roommates. She's struggling to make ends meet since she lacks many skills or qualifications. Meredith now works a minimum wage job and is barely getting by, living a far cry from the life she tried to control while she was in our home. A few months ago, I saw her from a distance at the grocery store. She looked exhausted and had aged considerably. Her hair was messy, and dark circles under her eyes told the story of sleepless nights. She looked nothing like the confident woman who once tried to take control of our lives. It was clear that life had worn her down, and she was no longer the powerful figure she once tried to project. Seeing her like that made me realize karma had caught up with her. She tried to manipulate and control us, but in the end, she had nothing to show for it. I felt a sense of relief knowing that she was no longer part of our lives and that we were free from her toxicity. The house, once filled with tension and arguments, now felt warm and welcoming. Dad and I had found peace. We've become closer, and we often talk about how much better things are now, how thankful we are to have each other. Dad even started picking up new hobbies like gardening and cooking things he never had time for when Meredith was around. We've created a loving, peaceful home, full of laughter. Meredith's departure was a blessing for both of us. It gave us the space to rebuild our lives and focus on what truly matters. No more constant drama or manipulation. Instead, we're enjoying life's simpler pleasures, making new memories, and cherishing the time we have together. As for Meredith, I hope she's learned from her mistakes. Life hasn't been easy for her, and I believe she's finally realizing that happiness can't be built on lies and deceit. The last I heard, she was still struggling to get by, working hard just to survive. I think she's finally coming to terms with the consequences of her actions. I don't wish any harm on her. I just hope she can turn things around and learn to live with integrity. I hope her struggles teach her valuable lessons, helping her grow into a better person. Everyone deserves a chance to change, to grow, and improve their life. Looking back, I'm grateful for everything we went through. The challenges we faced made us stronger and brought us closer together. Dad and I have become a great team, appreciating each other more than ever. We've built a life full of love, respect, and understanding, and for that, I am truly thankful. What do you do when a toxic presence tries to tear apart your family, and you're the one who has to protect what's left? For years, Willow lived under the shadow of her stepmother, Meredith. The cruelty, the manipulation, and the endless battles slowly wore her down, but something changed when Meredith made her boldest move yet. She underestimated Willow, assuming she could still control the situation and push her out of the house she called home. But Willow wasn't the naive teenager Meredith thought she was. She had been paying attention, gathering the courage to stand up for herself. And when the time came, Willow fought back strategically, calmly, and with purpose. When Meredith's plans finally came crashing down, it wasn't just about kicking her out of the house. It was about reclaiming her life and her space, a space that had been occupied by someone who had never valued her. Willow's response to Meredith's threats wasn't just a victory over the stepmother's manipulation, it was a moment of empowerment. She proved that no one, not even family, had the right to push her down or take away her worth. And when the dust settled, Willow realized something profound. The power she had been seeking from her family could only truly come from herself. The calm strength that radiated from her wasn't just about getting Meredith out of the house. It was about realizing that her true worth was never tied to Meredith's approval, her dad's favoritism, or anyone else's validation. So, what happens when you stop caring about what others think and stand up for your own happiness? Willow's journey is a testament to the fact that sometimes the best way to move forward is to leave behind the people who drain your energy and focus on building a life that reflects your own values. This was Willow's moment to truly reclaim her power, and the result was a life filled with peace, respect, and love. What do you think? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who tried to control or manipulate you? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of strength and resilience.
The message from my mother arrived on a night just like the one I was born, during a lunar eclipse. 32 years ago, that cosmic event branded me as cursed. Tonight, it felt like karma coming full circle. I'm Lauren, and I learned early that being born under a blood moon could turn your own family against you. My phone screen glowed with the text, "We need to talk. The whole family. It's important." My hands trembled as I set down my coffee mug in my office's break room. Evelyn, my best friend since college, noticed immediately. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, pulling up a chair beside me. "Worse, I heard from my mother." Evelyn's eyes widened. She knew everything. The years of being blamed for every family misfortune, the separate plates they made me eat from, the way they'd cross themselves when I entered a room. "What does Bridget want after all this time?" Evelyn asked, her voice tight with protective anger. I showed her the text. "Notice how she doesn't even say hello or how are you? Classic Bridget. You're not actually considering going, are you?" Before I could answer, Adrian knocked on the break room door. "Lauren, the investors are ready for you in the conference room." "Be right there," I called out, then turned back to Evelyn. "Remember when my mother told me I'd never amount to anything because the eclipse marked me? That I should be grateful if I could even hold down a job as a waitress?" Evelyn nodded, her jaw clenching. "Well, I'm about to close a deal that'll make this company worth 9 figures. Some curse, huh?" "Lauren," Evelyn grabbed my hand. "You don't owe them anything." "I know." I stood up, straightening my blazer. But maybe it's time they learned exactly what their cursed daughter became. The investment meeting went perfectly, but my mother's message haunted me throughout. That evening, I sat in my penthouse apartment, staring at old family photos I kept hidden in a drawer. There was Blair, my younger sister, always in the center, always wearing the best clothes. Zion, my older brother, deliberately standing apart from me in every shot. And my parents, Bridget and Leo, their faces tight with worry whenever I was nearby. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Blair. "Mom told me she messaged you. Please come. Things aren't good." I poured myself a glass of wine and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The partial eclipse was visible now, the moon slowly disappearing into shadow. I thought about the last time I saw them, 10 years ago, when I left home with nothing but a backpack and determination. "You'll come crawling back," Leo had shouted after me. "No one will ever hire you. No one will ever trust you. The eclipse marked you." Another message buzzed through. "Lauren, it's Mom. We're meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Grove restaurant. Please come. We need you." I laughed darkly at those last 3 words. Now they needed me. After years of treating me like I was radioactive, I called Evelyn. "They want to meet at the Grove," I said when she answered. "The restaurant you own?" Evelyn asked, surprise evident in her voice. "The very one. They don't know I own it, of course. They probably chose it because it's the most expensive place in town, thinking they'd burden me with the bill." "Oh, this is too perfect," Evelyn chuckled. "What are you going to do?" I watched my reflection in the window, superimposed over the darkening moon. "I'm going to give them exactly what they want, a chance to see what their cursed daughter became. But first, I need to make some arrangements." "You're plotting something," Evelyn said, knowing me too well. Let's just say Saturday night will be an eclipse they'll never forget. I took another sip of wine. Call Adrian. We're going to need his help with this. After hanging up, I finally replied to my mother's text, I'll be there. The response was immediate. Thank you, Lauren. We have so much to discuss. I bet we do, I thought, watching the last sliver of moon disappear into darkness. They wanted to see me? Fine. But this time, I'd be the one controlling the shadow show. My phone lit up one final time, Adrian confirming he was on board with my plan. Perfect. Saturday night wouldn't just be a family reunion, it would be a reckoning. I raised my glass to the darkened moon, making a toast to the cosmic irony of it all. They'd spent my whole life treating me like a curse. Now they'd learn that their real mistake wasn't in believing in bad luck. It was in creating their own. The Grove's private dining room felt smaller than I remembered, despite being the one who'd designed it. My family filtered in one by one, their expressions a mix of desperation and forced smiles. I'd arrived early, choosing a seat that faced the door, wanting to watch their entrance like the performance it was sure to be. Bridget came first, her silver hair perfectly coiffed but her designer bag noticeably worn. Lauren, darling. She moved to hug me, but I remained seated, forcing her to awkwardly pat my shoulder instead. Mother, I said coolly, noting how her lipstick slightly trembled. Leo followed, looking older than his 59 years. His once proud stance now stooped with what I assumed were the weights of his poor financial decisions. Blair slipped in behind him, beautiful as ever but with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Zion arrived last, checking his phone constantly, as if he had somewhere more important to be. Well, Bridget clapped her hands together. Isn't this lovely? All of us together again. Let's skip the pretense, I said, watching the waiter I'd specially selected pour water into their glasses. Why are we here? Blair shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Lauren, can't we just catch up first? It's been 10 years. 9 years, 8 months, and 13 days, I corrected. But who's counting? Leo cleared his throat. You look successful, Lauren. Surprised, Dad? Now, Lauren, Bridget interjected. We know we've had our differences, but family is family. We've been thinking about you so much lately. Thinking about me, or thinking about what I might be able to do for you? The waiter returned, distributing menus. I noticed how their eyes widened at the prices, exactly as I'd predicted. Order whatever you'd like, I said sweetly. I'm quite familiar with the menu. Zion finally looked up from his phone. Right, you work in restaurants or something now? Or something, I smiled, taking a sip of water. Bridget leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. That's actually part of what we wanted to discuss, dear. We've heard you've done quite well for yourself. Define quite well, I said, watching their faces. Well enough to perhaps help family in need? Leo's voice cracked slightly. There it was. I sat back, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Blair broke first. Dad's business is failing. The house is being foreclosed. They're living with me right now, but I can barely afford my own place, and Zion's startup went bust, Zion finished, his face flushing. We're all kind of struggling. And you thought of me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. The cursed child? The one who would bring nothing but bad luck? We were wrong. Bridget reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back before she could touch me. We were so wrong, Lauren. About everything. Wrong about what exactly? About making me eat in the kitchen while everyone else had dinner at the table? About refusing to attend my high school graduation because it fell on a full moon? About telling every potential friend that I was marked by evil? Leo's face darkened. We were trying to protect the family. You were protecting yourselves from your own daughter. My voice rose slightly, causing heads to turn at nearby tables. I took a deep breath, regaining composure. Please. Bridget's eyes welled with tears. We need help. We're family. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. You know what? You're right. We are family, and family should know everything about each other. So before we discuss any kind of assistance, I think we should have another meeting. Tomorrow night, same time. But Lauren, Blair started. Tomorrow night, I repeated firmly. I'll text you the address, and then you'll learn exactly what your cursed daughter has been up to these past 10 years. We'll be there, Bridget said quickly, hope flickering in her eyes. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and don't worry about the bill tonight. It's been taken care of. As I left, I heard Zion ask, "How can she afford this place?" I smiled, pulling out my phone to text Adrian. They took the bait. Tomorrow night, we show them everything. His response came quickly. The presentation is ready. They won't know what hit them. Walking to my car, I looked up at the night sky. The moon was full now, no eclipse in sight. Tomorrow, I'd show them that the only real curse in our family was their own blindness. And unlike an eclipse, this revelation wouldn't be temporary. "Are you sure you want to show them everything?" Evelyn asked, helping me set up the conference room for the evening's revelation. "Once you do this, there's no going back." I adjusted the projector screen, making sure it was perfectly centered. They need to see what their cursed daughter built while they were busy avoiding my shadow. Adrian walked in carrying a stack of folders. "Financial reports are ready. 10 years of growth, all documented, from your first food truck to your current restaurant empire." The memory of that first food truck made me smile. "Remember how we started, Evelyn? $200 in my pocket and your grandmother's recipe book. And now look at you." She gestured around the sleek corporate headquarters. 15 restaurants across 3 states, and the Grove franchise about to go national. Adrian began placing the folders at each seat around the conference table. "Don't forget the cooking show deal that's being finalized next week." My phone buzzed, a text from Blair. "Where exactly is this place? It looks intense." I sent her the lobby code, then turned to Adrian. "Show me the presentation one more time." He dimmed the lights and started the slideshow. The first image appeared, me at 22, standing proudly beside my food truck, Lucky Moon Cuisine painted on its side in bold letters. The irony of the name still gets me. Evelyn chuckled. The presentation continued. Newspaper clippings of my first restaurant opening, magazine features about the youngest restaurateur in the city's history, photos of celebrity clients, revenue charts showing exponential growth. "Stop there," I said, pointing to a particular slide. "Make sure this one stays up longer than the others. I want them to really see those numbers." Adrian nodded, making the adjustment. "They're going to be shocked when they realize you could buy their foreclosed house 10 times over without blinking." The security desk called up. My family had arrived. I straightened my blazer and took a deep breath. "Places everyone," I said. "It's showtime." Their faces as they entered the conference room were priceless. Bridget's mouth fell open at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Leo's eyes darted around, probably calculating the cost of everything he saw. Zion looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Only Blair seemed genuinely impressed. "Lauren, what is this place?" "This," I gestured around, "is my office. Please take a seat." They sat down awkwardly, looking out of place among the pristine modern furniture and state-of-the-art technology. "Before we discuss any financial arrangements," I said, standing at the head of the table, "I want to show you exactly what I've been doing since I left home." Adrian dimmed the lights again and started the presentation. The food truck photo appeared, and I heard Bridget gasp. "You ran a food truck?" Leo's voice dripped with disdain. "I owned a food truck," I corrected him. "The first of many businesses." The slides continued. With each image, each headline, each growth chart, their expressions shifted from confusion to disbelief to dawning realization. When the Grove franchise slide appeared, Zion stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. "Wait, you own the Grove? Where we ate yesterday?" "I own all 15 Groves," I said calmly, "along with several other restaurant concepts across the country." Bridget's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. "But how? You were supposed to be—" "Cursed," I finished for her. "Unlucky, a burden on the family." I walked around the table slowly. "Turns out the only curse was the one you created with your own superstitions and cruelty." Adrian advanced to the final slides. My net worth, property holdings, and future projections. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Leo's face had gone pale. All this time," I confirmed, "while you were warning people away from me, I was building an empire. While you were ashamed of your cursed daughter, I was being featured in Forbes. While you were living in fear of my bad luck, I was creating my own fortune." Blair started crying softly. "Lauren, I'm so sorry. We were so wrong." "Yes, you were," I said, turning the lights back on. "And now you've come asking for money from the very daughter you threw away." We didn't throw you away, Bridget protested weakly. Really? I opened one of Adrian's folders and pulled out a photo. This is from my college graduation. Notice how none of you are in it? Or this one from my first restaurant opening? Or my 30th birthday? The silence in the room was deafening. So, I closed the folder with a sharp snap. Now that you know exactly who you're asking for help, let's talk about what you really came here for. I sat down at the head of the table, feeling the weight of a decade of success behind me. Tell me, what makes you think you deserve a single penny of your cursed daughter's fortune? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Bridget dabbed at her eyes with a tissue while Leo stared at his hands. Zion kept glancing between the presentation screen and me, as if trying to solve a complex equation. Blair broke the tension first. We don't deserve anything from you, Lauren. What we did, what we allowed to happen, it was wrong. Blair, Bridget hissed. Don't. No, Mom. Blair's voice cracked. I've carried this guilt for years. Do you know what it was like watching you isolate my sister? Making her eat alone? Telling my friends she was dangerous? I hadn't expected this from Blair. She'd always been the golden child, the safe one, the lucky one. You were just a child, Leo started to say. I was old enough to know it was wrong, Blair shot back, and I did nothing. I just watched and stayed quiet because I was scared you'd turn on me too. Adrian cleared his throat. Should I give you all a moment? No, I said firmly. Stay. You and Evelyn are my real family now. You've earned your places at this table. Zion finally found his voice. So that's it? You brought us here just to rub your success in our faces? Actually, I pressed a button on the remote, bringing up new slides. I brought you here to show you exactly what you're asking for. The screen displayed their financial records, Leo's failed business ventures, Bridget's maxed out credit cards, their mortgage defaults, and Zion's bankrupted startup. How did you get these? Leo demanded, face reddening. I had my team do their due diligence before this meeting. You owe nearly $2 million collectively. The house goes to auction next month. Zion's creditors are getting impatient, and Mom's secret gambling habit isn't so secret anymore. Bridget gasped. That's private. Nothing's private when you come asking for money, I replied coolly. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate before this meeting? You had no right. Leo stood up, trying to summon his old authority. I had every right, just like you had every right to treat me like a pariah for 32 years. Sit down, Dad. To everyone's surprise, he did. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, sliding folders across the table. Inside each of these is a proposal, different for each of you, based on what you actually need, not what you want. They opened the folders cautiously, like they might contain snakes. Blair, yours is a small business loan with reasonable terms. Your art gallery idea isn't bad, but you need proper funding and mentorship. Blair looked up, shocked. You knew about that? I know everything. Zion, yours is a job offer. Your coding skills are solid, but you're a terrible businessman. My tech division needs programmers. You'd hire me? Zion's voice was small. I'd give you a chance to earn your way, which is more than you ever gave me. I turned to my parents. And you two, you get a choice. Option 1, I buy the house at auction, you continue living there, paying rent at market rate, no special treatment. Option 2, I help you find and finance a smaller place, something you can actually afford on Dad's pension. You'd do this, after everything? Bridget whispered. Not for free, I said firmly. Each of these offers comes with conditions. First, you attend family counseling, separately and together. Second, you acknowledge publicly how you treated me, including to our extended family who believed all your superstitious nonsense. That's blackmail, Leo protested weakly. No, that's accountability. Third condition, these offers are one time only. You mess up, miss payments, skip therapy, break the contracts, it's over. Forever. Evelyn placed a supportive hand on my shoulder as I stood up. You have 24 hours to decide. The contracts are with my lawyers. Oh, and one more thing. I walked to the door, then turned back. That lunar eclipse you blamed for cursing me? It's actually considered a symbol of revelation, when hidden truths come to light. Funny how that worked out, isn't it? I left them sitting there, staring at their folders, their futures, They're failures. Adrian and Evelyn followed me out. That was intense, Adrian said once we were in my office. Think they'll take the deals? Evelyn asked. I looked out at the city lights, remembering all the nights I'd spent alone, believing I was cursed, worthless, unlucky. They'll take them. They don't have a choice. And are you ready for what comes next? Evelyn's question hung in the air. You mean, am I ready to have them in my life again, under my terms? I turned to face my true family, the friends who'd stood by me when blood relatives wouldn't. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't cutting people off. It's showing them exactly what they missed out on, one day at a time. Through the conference room windows, I could see them still sitting there, reading through their folders, their faces painted with the harsh light of consequence. The next morning, Blair showed up at my office unannounced. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched her proposal folder like a lifeline. Your assistant wouldn't let me in without an appointment, she said, hovering in my doorway. I told her I'm your sister, but being my sister doesn't mean automatic access anymore, I finished, gesturing for her to sit. What do you want, Blair? She sank into the chair across from my desk. I stayed up all night reading this proposal. It's more than generous. It's business, I corrected her. Nothing more. Mom and Dad stayed up fighting about it, she continued. Dad wants to reject it, says it's humiliating. Mom's desperate to accept. Zion's already signed his contract. That surprised me. He has dropped it off at your lawyer's office first thing this morning. Said something about being tired of failing on his own. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister's face. The perfect daughter now looked haunted, worn. What about you? I asked. Have you decided? Blair pulled out the contract, already signed. I have questions first. Real ones, not excuses like Mom and Dad are making. Go ahead. Why did you include a clause about me teaching art to underprivileged kids? Because you're talented, Blair, and because those kids need someone who understands what it's like to watch others get all the chances. She flinched. I deserved that. Yes, you did. Lauren, Blair's voice cracked. Last night, after everyone left, I went through my old diaries. Every time I wrote about you, it was always with this mixture of guilt and relief. Relief that they focused their superstitions on you instead of me. Touching, I said dryly. No, let me finish. She straightened up. I was a coward. I watched them destroy your childhood because I was grateful it wasn't mine they were destroying. But you know what the crazy thing is? You're the only one of us who actually made something of yourself. My office door opened and Evelyn walked in, stopping short when she saw Blair. Sorry, she said. Didn't know you had company. It's fine. I waved her in. Blair was just leaving. Actually, Blair stood up. I wanted to say one more thing. I know you're doing all this to prove a point, to show them they were wrong, but I think you're also doing it because somewhere deep down, you still care what happens to us. You're wrong, I said flatly. Am I? You could have just told us no. Instead, you created customized proposals that actually give us chances to improve our lives. That's not revenge, Lauren. That's responsibility. Something Mom and Dad never showed us. Evelyn moved to stand beside my desk, her presence a silent support. The contracts need to be signed by 7 tonight, I reminded Blair. All or nothing. If Mom and Dad don't agree, all deals are void. I know. Blair headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not because I need your money, but because I failed as your sister. I hope someday you can forgive me. After she left, Evelyn perched on my desk. She's right, you know. You could have just shut them down. Don't you start? I warned. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Zion just showed up at IT for orientation. He actually seems eager to prove himself. Another message came through, this one from my lawyer. Your mother and father are here. They want to discuss terms. Well, Evelyn said, reading over my shoulder, looks like they're all falling in line. They're desperate, I replied. Desperate people will agree to anything. Maybe. Or maybe they're finally realizing what they lost was worth more than what they're gaining. I stood up, gathering my things. I need to get to the lawyer's office. Want to watch my parents squirm? Lauren, Evelyn caught my arm. Just be careful. Not of them, of yourself. Revenge can become its own kind of curse. This isn't revenge, I said, echoing Blair's words. It's responsibility. They taught me I was cursed, but I learned I was capable. Now it's time they learned the same lesson. As we rode the elevator down, I thought about Blair's words. Was I doing this because I cared? Or was I simply proving that their curse had backfired, turning their supposed bad luck charm into their only chance at salvation? Either way, I was about to watch my parents sign away their pride in exchange for security. And somewhere in the universe, I imagined that blood moon I was born under was laughing at the irony of it all. The law office felt too small for all the history crammed inside it. My parents sat across the conference table, looking like deflated versions of the people who once towered over my childhood. Bridget's hands shook as she reached for the contract. Leo stared at the table, his jaw clenched. Before you sign, I said, let's be clear about what this means. You'll keep the house, but it's my house. You'll live there, but under my terms. One missed payment, one broken rule, and you're out. We understand, Bridget whispered. Do you? I leaned forward. Because this isn't just about money. You'll attend therapy twice a week. You'll write formal apologies to every family member you warned about my curse. You'll volunteer at the community center where other parents learn not to abuse their children with superstitious nonsense. Leo's head snapped up. We never abused. Making a child eat alone for 16 years isn't abuse? My voice could have frozen fire. Telling her she can't attend her grandmother's funeral because it might curse the ceremony isn't abuse? Try saying that in therapy, Dad. See how it goes. The lawyer, Ms. Parker, cleared her throat. Shall we proceed with the signatures? Bridget picked up the pen, but Leo grabbed her wrist. Wait, I need to know something first. He finally met my eyes. Why are you really doing this, Lauren? Because I can, I replied coldly. No, he shook his head. You could destroy us completely. Instead, you're offering a chance, with conditions that seem designed to fix things. Why? Maybe I want you to live with the daily reminder that your cursed daughter owns everything you have. Maybe I want you to feel what I felt, dependent on someone else's mercy. Bridget started crying softly. We were wrong, Lauren. So terribly wrong. Save it for therapy, I cut her off. Sign or don't sign. I have a business to run. They signed. The moment the papers were finalized, my phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Zion's first day went well. Kid actually has talent when he's not trying to be the boss. Another message followed, this one from Blair. First art class scheduled for next week. Thank you, Lauren. The papers will be processed by morning, Ms. Parker said, gathering the documents. The first therapy session is scheduled for Thursday. We'll be there, Bridget said quickly, too quickly. Of course you will, I stood up, because if you're not, you'll be looking for a new place to live by Friday. Lauren, Leo called as I reached the door. The lunar eclipse, the night you were born. I turned back. Yes? I was the one who started it all. The superstition. Your mother just followed my lead. I was scared. Scared of having a daughter born on such a dark night. Scared of what it might mean. But I was wrong. The darkness wasn't in you. It was in me. For a moment, just a moment, I felt that little girl again. Desperate for her father's approval. I pushed the feeling away. Save it for therapy, Dad. You've got a lot of sessions ahead to work through your fears. Outside, Evelyn waited in my car. How did it go? They signed, just like I knew they would. And how do you feel? I looked back at the building where my parents were probably still sitting, shell-shocked by how completely their lives had changed. I feel nothing and everything. They're going to hate living under my rules, my control, just like I hated living under theirs. But you're giving them a chance to change, Evelyn pointed out. I'm giving them what they never gave me, an opportunity to prove they can be better. My phone buzzed again. A message from the family group chat Zion had created. Zion, first day done. Lauren's company is incredible. Blair, art supplies arrived for the classes. Still can't believe this is happening. Bridget, we signed. Lauren, thank you for not giving up on us completely. Leo, we'll do better this time, I promise. I didn't respond. Promises were easy. Change was hard. They'd learned that in therapy. Take me back to the office, I told Evelyn. I need to check on Zion's progress, review Blair's art program budget, and make sure the property transfer for the house is processing. Look at you, Evelyn smiled, taking care of everyone, even after everything. I'm not taking care of them, I corrected her. I'm making them take care of themselves. There's a difference. But as we drove away, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, breaking the curse meant more than just proving them wrong. Maybe it meant giving them the chance to be right, finally, after all these years. 3 months passed. I sat in my office reviewing the weekly reports, Zion's performance evaluations, Blair's art program attendance, my parents' therapy session notes. Everything looked perfect on paper. Too perfect. Adrian burst in without knocking. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Your father's at the Grove. He's drunk, telling everyone who will listen about how his cursed daughter is controlling their lives. My stomach clenched. Get the car. When we arrived at the Grove, Leo was standing on a chair in the main dining room, wine glass in hand. Bridget pulled at his sleeve, trying to get him down. My daughter thinks she can buy our love back, he announced to the horrified diners. She thinks money can erase what we did. Dad, I said sharply, get down. He spun toward my voice, nearly falling. There she is, the cursed child who became queen. Are you happy now, Lauren? Are you satisfied? Security, I called out, but kept my eyes on Leo. Clear the dining room. As guests were escorted out, Leo finally stepped down from the chair. His eyes were red, wild. I can't do it anymore, he slurred. The therapy, the confessions, the constant reminder that we ruined everything. Leo, please, Bridget begged. You're going to ruin this too. That's the point, he shouted. I want to ruin it. I want her to kick us out, take it all away. At least then we'd have our pride. Pride? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it? The pride that made you abuse your daughter? The pride that's making you drunk in my restaurant? Your restaurant, he spat. Everything's yours now. Our home, our lives, our dignity. You gave up your dignity long before I took control, I said coldly. The moment you decided a lunar eclipse meant your daughter was cursed, you lost everything that mattered. Blair and Zion burst in, obviously called by Bridget. Dad, what are you doing? Blair cried. Getting free, Leo stumbled. I'd rather be homeless than live under her power. Zion stepped forward. Like we lived under yours? At least Lauren's giving us chances to succeed. All you gave us was fear. Don't you dare defend her. Leo swung around. She's destroying our family. No, Dad, I said quietly. You destroyed our family. I'm just showing you the wreckage. Lauren, Bridget stepped between us. Please, he's drunk. He doesn't mean... Yes, I do, Leo roared. I meant every word back then, and I mean them now. You were born cursed, Lauren, and now you're cursing us right back. The room fell silent. Even in his drunken haze, Leo seemed to realize he'd crossed a final line. Well, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Thank you for making this easy. You've violated the contract. You have 24 hours to vacate my house. Lauren, no. Blair grabbed my arm. Please, he's just... Showing his true colors? I pulled away. Good, I was starting to think I was the only one who could see them. You can't do this, Bridget whispered. Actually, I can, and I will. I turned to security. Please escort Mr. and Mrs. Brewer out. They're banned from all my properties. What about us? Zion asked quietly. I looked at my siblings, really looked at them. Blair, who'd been trying so hard with her art programs. Zion, who'd become one of our best programmers. Your contracts are separate. As long as you continue meeting the terms, nothing changes. Leo laughed harshly as security approached. See? Turning my own children against me. That's the real curse. No, Dad, I said as they led him away. The real curse was having a father who cared more about superstition than his own daughter. But don't worry, that curse ends today. After they were gone, Blair collapsed into a chair, crying. Zion stood awkwardly, looking lost. I'll have my lawyers draw up new living arrangements for you both, I said. You won't have to go back to that house. Lauren, Blair looked up, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? I straightened my jacket, already composing emails in my head to my legal team. Now we stop pretending we can fix what was broken 32 years ago. Some curses can't be lifted. They can only be ended. As I walked out of the grove, I heard Zion say to Blair, "Maybe this is for the best. Maybe we all needed to see who Dad really is." Maybe they did, but I'd known all along. And now, finally, the truth had eclipsed the lies they'd built their lives around. The night air felt different as I stood on my office balcony, watching another lunar eclipse paint the sky. Evelyn handed me a glass of champagne. "Your new cooking show premieres in 10 minutes, she said. "Nervous?" "Not about the show." I took a sip. "Blair's art exhibition opens tomorrow. She invited them." "Are they coming?" "No, they're living in a small apartment across town. Dad's still bitter, Mom's still enabling." I turned as Adrian joined us. "But that's not my problem anymore." "Speaking of problems," Adrian held up his tablet. "Zion's team just landed the Miller account, biggest tech contract we've had." "He did?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Turns out your brother's pretty brilliant when he's not trying to prove something to your father." The TV inside my office flickered to life. Promotional ads for my new show, Lucky Moon Kitchen, started playing. "You really leaned into the moon theme, huh?" Evelyn smiled. "Why not? Time to rewrite the narrative." My phone buzzed. A text from Blair. "Watching the premiere with Zion. So proud of you, sis. Thank you for not giving up on us." Another message followed from Zion. "Dad's going to hate seeing you on national TV. Good." "Your siblings really turned around," Adrian observed. "They're trying. That's more than our parents ever did." The show's opening sequence began. Me in a professional kitchen, moonlight streaming through windows, the camera capturing the moment I'd dreamed of since I first started cooking in that lonely kitchen of my childhood. In every family, my voice narrated on screen, there are recipes passed down through generations. But in my family, the only thing passed down was fear. Tonight, I'm going to show you how I turned that fear into flavor, that curse into cuisine. "Bold, opening with your story," Evelyn said softly. "People deserve the truth, every ingredient of it." My office door opened. Blair and Zion walked in, carrying takeout bags from the grove. "Surprise?" Blair called out. "We couldn't let you watch alone." "How did you get past security?" I asked, but I was smiling. "I might have programmed us permanent access," Zion admitted. "You can revoke it if you want." I didn't want to. For the first time, having my siblings near felt right. "Mom called," Blair said quietly as we settled in to watch. "Asked if we could convince you to give them another chance." And I told her that chances aren't given, they're earned, just like you taught us." On screen, I was teaching viewers how to make the first recipe, my grandmother's mooncakes, reimagined with a modern twist. "Remember these?" Zion asked. "You used to make them even when they made you eat alone." "I remember you sneaking taste when Mom wasn't looking," I replied. "I remember wanting to invite you to eat with us but being too scared," Blair added. "I'm not scared anymore." The show continued, but we were barely watching now. Years of unspoken words tumbled out, memories both painful and precious surfacing like stars appearing after an eclipse. "I have something to show you," I said, pulling out 2 envelopes. "New contracts. No conditions this time, no therapy requirements, no mandatory programs." "What's the catch?" Zion asked. "The catch is you have to choose, really choose, to be part of this family we're building. Not because you have to, but because you want to." Blair opened her envelope. You're making us partners? In the business?" "Small shares," I clarified. "But yes, you've both proven yourselves. This isn't about control anymore, it's about creation." "What about Mom and Dad?" Zion asked. "Their story is their own now. We're writing a new one." On screen, the episode was ending. The camera panned out to show the moon through the kitchen window as I delivered the closing lines. "They say some people are born under lucky stars, others under cursed moons. But I've learned that the only real curse is believing you don't have the power to change your story. So tonight, let's cook up something magical together." "To new stories," Evelyn raised her glass. "To chosen family," Adrian added. "To the curse that became a blessing," Blair and Zion said together. I looked at my siblings, my friends, my empire built from the ashes of superstition, and raised my own glass. To the moon that showed us who we really are. Outside, the eclipse was ending, the moon emerging whole and bright. Some might call it a sign, but I knew better now. The only signs that matter are the ones we choose to follow, and I'd finally found mine. Not in the stars above, but in the family I'd built right here on Earth.
Grandmother's last words still echo in my mind. Protect our legacy, little fox. Some people will do anything for money, even family. I didn't understand what she meant until yesterday, when I opened her antique jewelry box and found it empty. My name is Fiona, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my own mother betrayed not just me, but everything our family stands for. Mom, I called out, rushing down the stairs of our Victorian home, the hollow jewelry box clutched in my trembling hands. Where's Grandma Ivy's sapphire collection? My mother Jennifer looked up from her fashion magazine, her freshly Botoxed face barely moving as she spoke. Oh, honey, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Meaning to talk about what exactly? The box felt heavy in my hands, despite its emptiness. These were supposed to be mine. Grandma made that clear in her will. There was an emergency, she said, setting down her magazine. I had no choice. What emergency? My voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Bills, sweetheart. Medical bills. She reached for her purse, hands shaking as she pulled out some papers. See? Everything just piled up so quickly. I snatched the papers from her manicured hands, scanning the dates and amounts. Something wasn't adding up. These are from 3 months ago. You told me everything was fine then. I didn't want to worry you, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. You were so busy with work, and after losing your grandmother... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. Those jewels were priceless family heirlooms. Grandma specifically left them to me because she always liked you better, Mom snapped, then immediately softened her tone. I'm sorry, baby. I was desperate. I'll make it up to you somehow. My Aunt Vera chose that moment to walk in through the front door. She never knocks anymore. Her eyes darted between us, sensing the tension. What's going on? Mom sold Grandma's sapphires, I said flatly. Apparently for some emergency she never told me about. Vera's face darkened. Jennifer, you didn't. What choice did I have? Mom stood up, dabbing at her eyes with the tissue. The bills were overwhelming. I couldn't let them send collectors after us. Us? I laughed bitterly. There is no us in this situation. Those weren't yours to sell. I'm still your mother. She grabbed my arm. Everything I do for this family. I yanked my arm away, finally noticing something odd about her face. The smoothness, the slight swelling around her cheeks. Mom, what did you do to your face? She touched her cheek self-consciously. Just a little maintenance, nothing major. Vera stepped closer, examining our mother's face. Jennifer, is this what the emergency money went to? Mom's silence was all the confirmation I needed. You sold Grandma's heirlooms for plastic surgery? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Do you have any idea what those meant to her? To me? You don't understand, she sobbed, reaching for me again. I'm getting older. I need to maintain my appearance. The world is cruel to aging women. The world is cruel to liars, too. I shot back, backing away from her touch. Where did you sell them? Fiona, please. Where? Carlisle's Antiques downtown, she finally admitted, collapsing onto the sofa. But it's too late. They're gone. Some collector from Europe already bought them. I turned to Vera, who looked as disgusted as I felt. Did you know about this? She shook her head. No, but honestly, I'm not surprised. Your mother has always been creative with the truth when it comes to money. Vera, don't you dare. Mom stood up, mascara running down her cheeks. I've done everything for this family. Everything. And this is how you both treat me? I clutched the empty jewelry box tighter, remembering the day Grandma showed me each piece, telling me the stories behind them. How they'd been passed down through generations of strong women in our family. Women who faced real challenges, not imagined ones. I'm calling Dorian, I announced, pulling out my phone. He's still practicing estate law, right? You wouldn't, Mom gasped. Your own mother? Watch me. I started dialing. Grandma was right about you. She knew exactly what you'd try to do. That's why she made me executor of her estate. As my mother dissolved into theatrical sobs, I walked out of the room, Vera following close behind. My grandmother's words echoed in my head again. Protect our legacy, little fox. And that's exactly what I intended to do, no matter the cost. These bank statements don't lie, I muttered, spreading papers across my Aunt Vera's kitchen table. Look at these transactions from the past 6 months. Vera leaned over my shoulder, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Luxury spa treatments, designer boutiques, and is that a membership to some exclusive club? The Velvet Room, I confirmed, circling the recurring charge. $5,000 per month just for access. Some exclusive social club downtown. Your mother always did have expensive taste. Vera sighed, settling into the chair beside me. Remember when she spent your college fund on that trip to Paris? Yeah, and told me it was stolen by identity thieves. I grabbed my coffee, letting the bitter taste fuel my growing anger. I worked 3 jobs to pay for my first semester. My phone buzzed, another text from Mom. Baby, please call me. I can explain everything. I ignored it, just like the previous 20 messages. There's something else you should know, Vera said, getting up to retrieve a folder from her desk. I've been keeping track of some things since your grandmother passed. She pulled out a stack of receipts and handwritten notes. Every time Jennifer claimed there was an emergency, I documented it. Medical emergencies, car repairs, roof leaks. And let me guess, none of them were real? Bingo. Vera spread out the papers. That emergency appendectomy last year? She was actually at a wellness retreat in Arizona. The critical roof repair? New wardrobe from Nordstrom. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dorian. Got the preliminary paperwork ready? Meet at my office at 2? Yes, please, I texted back. What's your plan? Vera asked, watching me gather the evidence. First, I'm meeting with Dorian to review Grandma's will. There might be clauses we can use to protect what's left of the estate. I stood up, stuffing papers into my messenger bag. Then I'm paying a visit to Carlisle's Antiques. I'll come with you, Vera offered, grabbing her car keys. That old buzzard Carlisle knows me. He might be more willing to talk. The drive downtown was tense. Another call from Mom. Ignored. Carlisle's Antiques was exactly as I remembered it from childhood visits with Grandma. The bell above the door chimed as we entered, and Mr. Carlisle himself looked up from his ledger. Vera McCarthy. He smiled, then his face fell slightly when he saw me. And young Fiona, I was expecting one of you eventually. The Sapphire Collection, I said without preamble. How much did she get for it? Carlisle shifted uncomfortably. I'm not at liberty to discuss. Cut the crap, George, Vera interrupted. We know Jennifer sold them. We need to know if there's any way to track down the buyer. He hesitated, then sighed. $150,000. Well below their actual worth, but she was insistent on a quick sale. My stomach lurched. $150,000 for emergency medical bills? Medical bills? Carlisle frowned. She mentioned something about a surgeon, but it wasn't for anything urgent. Said she'd been planning it for months. Just then, my phone lit up with a social media notification. My cousin Xavier had tagged me in a post. A photo from the Velvet Room taken last night. There was my mother, face freshly done, wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before, champagne glass in hand. The caption read, Auntie J living her best life. That lying. I couldn't even finish the sentence. My hands were shaking too hard. Fiona, Vera said quietly, there's something else you should know. Your mother came to me last week asking to borrow money. Said she needed it for property taxes. Let me guess. Another lie? I followed her after I turned her down. She went straight to a cosmetic surgeon's office. Vera pulled out her phone, showing me a photo she'd taken. I did some digging. She's scheduled for another procedure next week. The bell chimed again, and we turned to see Xavier walking in, looking sheepish. "Hey, cuz. Guess you saw my post?" "Take it down," I growled. "Already did," he said quickly. "Look, I had no idea about the jewelry. Mom told me what happened this morning. I just thought you should see what she's really been up to." I looked at the evidence in my hands: bank statements, receipts, photos. 6 months of calculated deception, all leading up to the theft of my inheritance. "Thanks for your help, Mr. Carlyle," I said, turning toward the door. "I've got a meeting with my lawyer." "Fiona," he called after me. "For what it's worth, I tried to talk her out of it. Told her those pieces should stay in the family." "They should have," I replied. "And now she's going to learn exactly what that means." As we left the shop, I finally answered one of Mom's texts. "Hope the new face was worth it. See you in court." Family dinner had always been a monthly tradition at our house, but this one was different. The tension was thick enough to cut with the expensive silver knives Mom insisted on using, the ones she probably bought with my inheritance money. "Pass the potatoes, please," Mom said sweetly, as if nothing was wrong. Her new face looked even more obvious in the dining room lighting. "Interesting choice of serving dishes," I commented, nodding at the crystal bowl. "New? Oh, these old things." She laughed nervously. "Just something I had in storage." Xavier nearly choked on his wine. "Funny, I saw those exact ones at Marshall's last week. Premium collection, right?" Mom's smile faltered slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Just like you don't know about the emergency that required you to sell Grandma's sapphires?" I set down my fork. "Or should we discuss your actual emergency? The one involving Botox and fillers?" The room went silent. Vera stopped mid-bite, and Xavier leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "This is hardly the time or place," Mom started. "Actually," I interrupted, pulling out my phone, "this is exactly the time and place. Everyone's here, so everyone can see exactly what kind of emergency you had." I pulled up the before and after photos from her surgeon's Instagram page. She hadn't even bothered to ask them not to post them. "You went to Dr. Reynolds?" Vera asked, peering at the phone. "He's the most expensive cosmetic surgeon in the city." $150,000 worth of expensive, I added. "That's what Grandma's sapphires went for. At a fraction of their real value, by the way." Mom's face, what could move of it, contorted with rage. "You went behind my back? Investigated me like some kind of criminal?" "You went behind mine first," I shot back. "Those jewels were legally mine. You committed theft, Mom. Plain and simple." "I am your mother. Everything I own is yours eventually anyway." "That's not how inheritance law works," Xavier chimed in. "Actually, Fiona could press charges if she wanted to." Mom's head snapped toward him. "Since when are you an expert on law?" "Since I started dating a legal assistant." He shrugged. "She found some interesting things when I asked her to look into this, by the way." He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table to me. "You might want to read this later." Before I could reach for it, Mom snatched it up. "Don't you dare," I warned, standing up. "This is my house," she snapped, ripping open the envelope. As she read, all the color drained from her face. "What is it?" Vera asked. "Nothing," Mom said quickly, trying to stuff the papers back inside. Xavier cleared his throat. "Those are records of other sales. Apparently the sapphires weren't the only things that disappeared after Grandma died." "Give me those papers," I demanded, walking around the table. Mom jumped up, backing away. "These are private family matters." "Exactly," I said. "And I'm the executor of Grandma's estate. Those papers. Now." She looked around wildly, then made a dash for the kitchen. I heard the garbage disposal whir to life. "Are you kidding me?" I ran after her, but it was too late. The papers were gone. "It doesn't matter," Xavier called from the dining room. "I have copies. My girlfriend made sure of that." Mom slumped against the counter, finally dropping her perfect hostess act. You don't understand. None of you do. Do you know what it's like to watch yourself fade away? To become invisible? Do you know what it's like to watch your mother destroy everything your grandmother built? I countered. To realize every emergency, every crisis, every time you needed help was just another manipulation? I gave you everything. You took everything, I corrected her. And now you're going to face the consequences. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Vera went to answer it. Fiona? She called. There's someone here you need to see. I walked to the front door, Mom trailing behind me. Standing on the porch was a man I hadn't seen in 5 years. My father. Hello, Princess, he said softly. Xavier called me. Said there were some things about your mother's financial dealings I should know about. Mom made a small choking sound behind me. Calvin, she whispered. You can't be here, actually, he said, pulling out what looked like old bank statements. I think I'm exactly where I need to be. We need to talk about what really happened to our joint accounts before the divorce. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Xavier. Remember those interesting things my girlfriend found? This is just the beginning. The papers Mom had destroyed suddenly didn't seem so important anymore. Whatever was coming next would be much, much bigger. Your mother didn't just take the sapphires, Dorian said, spreading documents across his office desk. She's been systematically liquidating assets for years. I slumped in the leather chair across from him, clutching my coffee like a lifeline. How bad is it? Bad enough that your father's here. He gestured to where Dad sat by the window, looking through old financial records. The beach house in Maine, Dad muttered. The vacation property in Colorado. All sold within months of each other, right before our divorce. But those were jointly owned, I said. How could she sell them without your signature? Dorian pulled out another document. That's where it gets interesting. Look at these signatures. I leaned forward, examining the papers. These don't match. Forgery, Dad confirmed, his voice tight. She got better at it over time, but these early ones are sloppy. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Please come home. We can work this out as a family. Don't respond, Dorian advised, noting my expression. Everything needs to go through legal channels now. A knock at the door interrupted us. Xavier's girlfriend Maria walked in, carrying a thick folder. You're going to want to see this, she said, laying out more documents. I found something in the property records. There's a hidden asset, a condo downtown registered to a shell company. Let me guess, I said. Purchased around the time Grandma's sapphires disappeared? 2 days after the sale, Maria confirmed. But here's the kicker. It's not in your mom's name. It's registered to someone named Patricia Wells. Dad's head snapped up. That's her mother's maiden name. Classic hiding technique, Dorian noted, but sloppy. Very sloppy. There's more, Maria continued. The condo was used as collateral for a loan last month. A big one. I felt my stomach drop. How big? $200,000. Jesus, Dad whispered. What is she into? My phone rang. Vera this time. I put her on speaker. Fiona, you need to get to the house now. Her voice was urgent. Your mother's trying to access the safe deposit box at the bank. The one with Grandma's will and the rest of the jewelry. She can't, I said. I'm the only one with access. She's claiming emergency family authorization. Says you're incapacitated. She's what? I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. I'm heading to the bank now, Vera said. But you need to get there first. You're the legal executor. Dorian was already grabbing his coat. I'm coming with you. Maria, keep digging into that loan. Dad? I'll stay here. Dad nodded. Keep looking through these records. The drive to the bank was a blur of red lights and honking horns. We made it just as Mom was arguing with the bank manager. There you are, she exclaimed when she saw me. Tell them, honey. Tell them about your condition. What condition would that be, Mom? I asked coldly. The one you made up to try and steal more family heirlooms? The bank manager looked between us. Mrs. Nelson, you claimed your daughter was in a medical facility, unable to make decisions. She's confused, Mom insisted. The stress has been too much for her. The only thing I'm stressed about, I said clearly, is discovering my mother's pattern of theft and fraud. Dorian stepped forward, presenting his credentials. I'm Miss Stone's attorney, sound mind, and the legal executor of the estate. Furthermore, he pulled out a document. We're here to freeze this account pending criminal investigation. Mom's perfectly sculpted. Fiona, you wouldn't? Actually, I would. To the bank manager. I'd like to access the box now. I want to review to access. Of course. He nodded. Right this way. As we followed him to the vault, Mom grabbed my arm. You don't understand. That loan, I had no choice. There are people. Save it for your lawyer. I cut her off. You're going to need one. The safe deposit box contained exactly what I feared. Empty spaces where more jewelry should have been. But it also held something unexpected. A letter from Grandma, dated just weeks before she died. What is it? Dorian asked, noting my expression as I read. Proof, I said quietly. Proof that Grandma knew exactly what Mom was capable of, and instructions on how to stop her. Mom had gone pale. Ivy wouldn't what? Protect her legacy from you? I folded the letter carefully. Looks like she did exactly that, and now I know what I have to do next. As we left the bank, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Xavier. Maria found something big. Really big. Come back to Dorian's office ASAP. The day wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Gambling debts. Maria announced as soon as we walked back into Dorian's office. Your mother's been losing big at the Velvet Room. That's what the loan was for. The social club? I sat down heavily. It's a casino? High-stakes private gambling, Xavier explained. Very exclusive, very illegal. That's why she needed the membership. Dad pushed a stack of papers toward me. Look at these credit card statements. Thousands withdrawn at ATMs near the club, multiple times per week. The loan sharks are getting impatient, Maria added. That's why she's been so desperate for quick cash. I thought about the empty safe deposit box, the missing jewelry, the sold properties. How much does she owe? At least $500,000, Maria said quietly. And that's just what we can trace. The room went silent. Dorian was the first to speak. We need to act fast. Fiona, that letter from your grandmother, what did it say? I pulled it out with shaking hands. Grandma set up a trust. A secret one, separate from the main estate. She knew Mom would try to get her hands on everything, so she created a safety net. Smart woman. Dorian smiled. Let me guess. You're the trustee? With full control, I confirmed. And there's more. She left evidence of Mom's previous frauds. Documents, photos, bank records, everything we need to prove this isn't new behavior. A knock at the door made us all jump. Vera walked in, looking grim. Your mother's at the Velvet Room, she said. I followed her there. She's trying to get another loan. We can't let that happen. Dad stood up. Those people are dangerous. We won't, I said, pulling out my phone. Dorian, how quickly can we freeze her accounts? With the evidence we have? Within the hour. Do it, I ordered. Xavier, call your contact at the Gaming Commission. If the Velvet Room is running illegal games, they need to know. On it. He grabbed his phone. What about me? Dad asked. Those forged signatures on the property sales. We need to file fraud charges. He nodded grimly. Already started the paperwork. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother owes us money. Family should help family. You have 24 hours. They're threatening me now. I showed the message to Dorian. Perfect, he said. That's exactly what we need. Maria, start the restraining order paperwork. Already done. She held up a file. Just needs your signature. I signed quickly, then turned to Vera. There's one more thing we need to do. Remember that storage unit Grandma mentioned in her letter? Vera's eyes widened. The one with all the evidence? That's the one. We need to get there before Mom figures it out. I'll drive, Xavier offered. Maria, keep working with Dorian on the legal stuff. She nodded, already typing furiously on her laptop. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town. Unit 247 looked like any other, but when we rolled up the door, we found a gold mine of evidence. Look at these. Vera held up a stack of photos. Your mother with known loan sharks, dating back 20 years. And these? Xavier pulled out more files. Bank statements showing systematic theft from your grandfather's business before he died. Grandma knew, I realized. She knew all along and was building a case. Your grandmother was nobody's fool, a voice said behind us. We spun around to find Dad standing there, holding an old leather journal. How did you— Ivy told me about this place years ago, he said. Made me promise to only reveal it if things got bad enough. I'd say we're there. He handed me the journal. This is your grandmother's record of everything your mother ever stole, lied about, or manipulated, including what she did to break up our marriage. I opened the journal with trembling hands. There, in Grandma's elegant handwriting, was the truth I'd been looking for my whole life. My phone buzzed again. Dorian. Accounts frozen. Gaming commission raiding the Velvet Room now. Your mother's being detained for questioning. It's time, I said, closing the journal. Let's end this. What are you going to do? Vera asked. Exactly what Grandma wanted, I replied. Use the trust to protect what's left of our family's legacy and make sure Mom never has the chance to destroy it again. She won't take this well, Xavier warned. No, I agreed, looking at the mountain of evidence surrounding us. But for once, she won't have a choice. As if on cue, my phone rang. Mom's number. But this time, I was ready to answer. Hello, Mother, I said calmly. I think it's time we had a real conversation about consequences. The silence on the other end told me she finally understood. Her game was over, and I was the one holding all the cards. The police station's interview room felt smaller than it looked on TV. Mom sat across from me, her perfect makeup smeared with tears, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours of questioning. Did you read Grandma's letter? I asked, sliding the envelope across the steel table. Her hands shook as she opened it. My dearest Fiona, she read aloud. If you're reading this, then Jennifer has done exactly what I feared she would. Keep reading, I said quietly. The money, the jewels, the properties, they were never what mattered. What matters is the truth. Your mother has spent her entire life running from it, destroying everything and everyone in her path. Mom's voice cracked. Mother, how could you? How could you? I countered. The loan sharks? The gambling? Stealing from your own family? I was going to win it all back, she whispered. Just one more game. One more chance. Detective Roberts knocked and entered, carrying a thick file. Mrs. Nelson, we've finished reviewing the evidence from the Velvet Room. Would you like to explain these? He spread out photographs. Mom with known criminals, handling large sums of cash. That's not— I didn't— Save it, I cut in. We found Grandma's storage unit. We know everything. Everything? Her face went pale. The forged checks from Grandpa's business. The real reason Dad left. The fake cancer scare you used to get sympathy money from the church? I leaned forward. 20 years of lies, Mom. All documented. She slumped in her chair. What do you want from me? The truth. For once in your life, just tell the truth. The door opened again. Dad walked in with Dorian. The Gaming Commission wants to make a deal, Dorian announced. They'll reduce charges if you testify against the Velvet Room's operators. And the loan sharks? Mom asked weakly. We've frozen all your accounts, I said. The trust Grandma set up? It's being used to pay back your legitimate debts. But the illegal ones? You're on your own. You can't do this to me. She stood up suddenly. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose gambling over family. I shot back. The moment you sold Grandma's sapphires for plastic surgery. The moment you forged Dad's signature and drove him away. It wasn't like that, she protested. Dad stepped forward. Then what was it like, Jennifer? Tell us. Tell your daughter why you destroyed our family. Mom looked around the room like a cornered animal. Finally, she broke. I couldn't stand being ordinary, she burst out. Your grandmother had everything, the respect, the status, the legacy. I married into this family thinking I'd have that too, but all I got were expectations and judgment. So you decided to steal it instead? I asked. I deserved it. All those years playing the perfect wife, the perfect mother, I deserved something for myself. Detective Roberts cleared his throat. Mrs. Nelson, are you confessing to theft and fraud? She fell silent, reality finally catching up. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out a document. You're going to sign control of all remaining assets over to the trust. You're going to enter rehabilitation for your gambling addiction. And you're going to tell the Gaming Commission everything you know about the Velvet Room. And if I refuse? Then we press charges, Dad said. All of them. The fraud, the theft, the forgery. You'll go to prison, Jennifer. She stared at the document for a long moment. What about my debts? The legal ones will be handled, I assured her. The illegal ones, well, maybe prison would be safer than facing those collectors. Her hand trembled as she reached for the pen. I never meant for it to go this far. You never meant to get caught, I corrected her. There's a difference. She signed the papers, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. What happens now? Now? I stood up. Now you face the consequences, just like Grandma knew you'd have to someday. As we left the police station, Dad put his arm around my shoulders. Your grandmother would be proud of you, Princess. I'm not sure about that, I said. This doesn't feel like a victory. It's not supposed to, Dorian chimed in, but it's necessary. Sometimes protecting a legacy means making hard choices. My phone buzzed. A text from Xavier. Maria found the buyer of the sapphires. He's willing to sell them back. I smiled slightly. Maybe some things could be recovered after all. But as I watched Mom being led away by officers, I knew some things would never be the same. And maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. Please, Fiona, I need money for the commissary, Mom begged through the prison phone. Her face on the video screen looked different. Older, stripped of its artificial smoothness. 3 months in county jail had worn away the facade she'd spent so much money creating. No, I said firmly. The trust will provide basic necessities, but that's it. No extras. You don't understand what it's like in here. Her voice cracked. The other inmates, maybe you should have thought about that before you testified against half the people in the Velvet Room. She flinched. They were criminals. So were you, Mom. That's why you're there. A guard appeared behind her. 5 minutes, Nelson. Mom leaned closer to the screen. What about the rehabilitation program? If I complete it, can I come home? Home? I laughed without humor. The house has been sold to pay your debts, remember? But where will I go when I get out? The trust will provide for a small apartment and living expenses, contingent on you maintaining sobriety and attending therapy. I held up the document. Just like we agreed. You're treating me like a child. No, I'm treating you like someone who stole from their family and gambled away their future. I softened my tone slightly. This is what getting help looks like, Mom. The door to the prison visiting room opened and Vera walked in. Mom's expression hardened. What is she doing there? Supporting me, I said. Unlike some people. Vera placed a hand on my shoulder. Jennifer, the sapphires are back in the family's possession. Mom's eyes widened. How? The buyer was more understanding than you deserved, I explained. Once he learned they were stolen family heirlooms, he agreed to sell them back. At cost. Using my money, I suppose? Using what's left of Grandma's trust, I corrected her. The money you didn't manage to gamble away. A tear rolled down her cheek. I never meant to hurt you, baby. I needed to feel special. You were special, Mom. You were my mother. That should have been enough. The guard appeared again. Time's up. Wait! Mom pressed her hand against the screen. What about your father? Are you talking to him? Dad's been helping clean up your mess, I said. He's been more of a parent in the past 3 months than you were in the last 5 years. He left us. No, you drove him away. With lies, with theft, with your endless need for more. I stood up. The truth was in Grandma's journal, remember? She slumped in her chair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Then what will? She whispered. Time. Truth. Actually doing the work instead of just pretending to change. I gathered my things. Complete the program, Mom. Go to therapy. Deal with whatever made you think destroying our family was worth it. And then we'll see. I nodded to the guard. We're done here. As we walked out of the prison, Vera squeezed my arm. You're doing the right thing, you know. Am I? Sometimes it feels like I'm being too harsh. She needs boundaries, Fiona. Structure, real consequences. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Dinner tonight? Xavier and Maria are coming. They found something else in the records you should see. More secrets? I asked Vera. I'm not sure I can handle any more. Actually, she smiled. This one might be good news. Your grandmother left something else in that storage unit, something your mother never knew about. What? Come to dinner and find out. She dangled her car keys. Sometimes family secrets can heal as well as hurt. I took one last look at the prison behind us. Mom was being led back to her cell, shoulders slumped, designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. You know she'll try to manipulate you again, Vera warned. I know. I got into the car. But this time I'm ready for it. Because of Grandma's letter? Because I finally understand what Grandma meant about protecting our legacy. I buckled my seatbelt. It's not about the jewelry or the money, it's about breaking the cycle. As we drove away, another text came through, from Mom's rehabilitation counselor. Your mother asked to start individual therapy today. Small steps, but progress. Maybe, just maybe, some things could be rebuilt. Not the same as before, but something new. Something honest. For now, though, I had a dinner to get to, and a family, or what was left of it, waiting to share one more secret. This time, I hoped, one that wouldn't break my heart. Happy birthday, Grandma, I whispered, placing fresh flowers beside her headstone. The morning dew still clung to the grass, and the sapphire pendant around my neck caught the early sunlight. She would have loved this, Dad said, standing beside me. All of us here together. Xavier and Maria spread out a blanket nearby, while Vera unpacked a basket of Grandma's favorite breakfast pastries. Our new tradition, morning picnics at the cemetery, had started spontaneously after we discovered Grandma's final gift. Show them the letter, Xavier urged. The real one. I pulled out the weathered envelope we'd found hidden in a false bottom of the storage unit. Unlike Mom's manipulation and lies, this secret had been worth keeping. Dear ones, I read aloud. If you're having breakfast by my grave, it means the truth has finally come out. Jennifer's actions have consequences, yes, but don't let them poison your hearts. Family isn't just blood. It's choice. Choose to be better. Choose to be together. She knew. Vera smiled. She knew we'd find our way back to each other. There's more, I continued. In my safety deposit box, the real one, not the decoy Jennifer knew about, you'll find letters for each of you. Read them when you're ready. And remember, sometimes family trees need pruning to grow stronger. Dad pulled out his own letter. Mine told me to come home, to help you through this. She knew I'd been staying away out of shame. Mine led me to Maria. Xavier squeezed his now fiancé's hand. Grandma's letter told me to look closer at the people already in my life. And mine? Vera held up her paper. Told me to be the bridge this family needed, to help pick up the pieces. My phone buzzed. Mom's Rehabilitation Center. I answered on speaker. Fiona? Mom's voice sounded different. Clearer, more genuine. I finished the program today. 6 months sober. That's good, Mom. I'm not asking to come home, she said quickly. I know I haven't earned that. I found something in therapy about why I did what I did. Would you let me tell you about it? Over coffee, maybe? I looked at my family gathered around Grandma's grave, then at the final line of her letter. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to give someone the chance to change. Coffee, I agreed, but not alone. Dad and Vera will come too. Thank you. Mom's voice cracked. And Fiona? I saw the trust statement. Thank you for paying for my therapy instead of just the basics. After hanging up, Maria pulled out one last item from the picnic basket, Grandma's old photo album. Look what we found in the storage unit. She opened to a marked page. Your grandmother left notes. There, beside each family photo, were Grandma's observations. Not just dates and places, but insights. Warnings about Mom's early signs of trouble. Hope for Dad's eventual return. Pride in my resilience. She didn't just leave us money or jewelry, I realized. She left us a roadmap. For healing, Dad nodded. For rebuilding, Vera added. For choosing better, Xavier finished. I touched the sapphire pendant, not just recovered jewelry now, but a symbol of everything we'd learned. So, what do we choose? We choose to be here, Dad said firmly. To be honest, Vera added. To be family, Xavier and Maria said together. The morning sun had fully risen now, warming the cemetery and making the dew sparkle like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. Your turn. Dad nudged me. What do you choose? I looked at my phone, at Mom's text asking about coffee, at the family surrounding me with love and truth instead of manipulation and lies, at Grandma's headstone, where she'd watched over all of this unfolding exactly as she'd planned. I choose to be strong, I said. Strong enough to set boundaries. Strong enough to forgive without forgetting. Strong enough to let people earn their way back without guaranteeing they'll succeed. Just like Ivy. Vera smiled. Just like Grandma, I agreed, touching the headstone one last time. And that's the best legacy of all. We settled in for breakfast, sharing stories and memories, laughter mixing with the morning bird song. Not a perfect family. We'd never be that. But a real one, finally. One built on truth instead of lies, strength instead of manipulation, love instead of fear. And somewhere, I knew, Grandma was watching with satisfaction, knowing her final secret had done exactly what she'd intended. It had given us the chance to choose what kind of family we wanted to be. We chose well.